It's another piece of evidence that religious freedom is in real crisis in many parts of the world, and that religious persecution in many areas of the world is getting worse, not better. A more reliable source than this particular report, which seems to be thoroughly shaped by political assumptions, and I'll get into that in just a second, is the World Watch List from Open Doors that looks at particular areas of concern when it comes to persecution of Christians. Now, this is dealing with more broadly religious persecution, which I think is an important distinction. And Christians, don't just want to stand up for their brothers and sisters who are being persecuted. We want to stand up for any group that's being persecuted. This is why we've talked, for example, about the persecuted Uyghur minority in China, and we'll continue to do that wherever it takes place. It's important, for example, when you get to India, that struggle with radical Hindu nationalists, which I know if anyone who has kind of embraced the narrative that Hinduism is maybe wrong, but at least it's peaceful. There is this group of Hindu nationalists and zealots in India that have really made it very, very difficult for Muslims and Christians there. But I think the report under the last administration, undermined that. There was a strange relationship there because of some other policy agreements with the Indian government. This is a place where I think the report probably is more accurate. In the same way, though, it's important to note that this is the same government that is pushing aid out to the rest of the world with the understanding that other countries will embrace a particular agenda on human sexuality. And we know that the push for the way LGBTQ rights are often defined by progressive minds is in direct violation of religious freedom. And one wonders, are we going to actually get to the challenging state of religious freedom in the United States? With state governments, with some of the laws that are being passed here in Colorado, for example, in Michigan, for example, and in other places. Why is it that pregnancy resource centers have been vandalized 80 or so times since the Dobbs decision, and we have so few investigations and almost no prosecutions? Now, the sort of persecution that's being described in these reports, it reflects reality on the ground, and it reflects the state of it. It's just not a neutral report. These reports that come out of this commission look very different depending on who's president, depending on whose voices, whose worldview are influencing them. And it's going to continue to look more and more different as LGBTQ rights are promoted around the world by the United States, which is the greatest colonizer of other nations in that ideology that exists in terms of how they're promoting this. So, that's just the caveat that we need to look at and understand this. At the same time, it's a good move that there is a department like this whose job it is to kind of look at it. You just got to know that it's being looked at through a particular lens. And in some ways that lens is going to be right. In many other ways that lens is going to be wrong.